Alan from Ardent here. I've just popped down to my local boat yard. This is where I keep my boat Fair Exchange. It's a beautiful sunny day here. And I thought this would be a great opportunity to talk about the underside of the boat. It's something we don't see very often. And we're in a perfect environment with all these boats out of the water. So I'm going to talk to you about the different types of keels we have, rudder configurations and propellers. So first of all, I want to talk to you about long keels. This is really where it all started. This is a traditional long keel yacht. Clearly, it's called a long keel because you can see the keel runs from the very front right to the very back of the boat. Most boats up into the 60s and 70s were built this, usually because they were built from timber. And certainly the early fiberglass boats kind of model themselves on the same idea. So what's good and what's bad about long keels? Well, firstly, the long keel is an integral part of the structure of the boat. It's not bolted on like a modern fin keel boat. So this is actually built into the boat, which makes this very strong, very tough. It also means the boat is able to take the ground. And in this case, you can see how this boat is propped up with some legs here. So actually you can sit on the mud if it's required. The long keel also gives you what's called lateral stability, and that means that because it's so long, when the boat's sailing along, she wants to keep sailing in a straight line. And very often with these long keel boats, you can let go of the tiller or the wheel and the boat will keep going, whereas a modern boat will be a bit more twitchy. Thinking about leeway, if you remember, leeway is this how the boat slides sideways through the water, especially when you're close hauled. Again, with a long keel, you've got a lot of area underneath the boat that's going to resist the leeway. So she'll make less leeway than a typical fin keel boat. Of course, there have to be some disadvantages. One thing is the wetted surface area. There's a big amount of boat under the water. And this is going to cause resistance. This means this boat is not going to be a super fast boat. She's going to be quite slow and steady. So though the long keel gives us this really lateral stability, it does give us poor maneuverability. And you'll find actually boat handling a boat like this in a marina is going to be quite hard work. Due to the long keel of the boat and the heaviness of her, she'll be a really good sea boat. She'll be very comfortable at sea and she'll be very predictable in her motion. Okay, welcome to Fair Exchange. This is my boat. I call her a long keeler, but if you look at her, she's a bit of a compromise. You can see the keel runs really from here right to the back, but there's a cutaway at the front and a cutaway at the back. In theory, it gives her better maneuverability than a true long keel boat, but I have to say she's a bit of a pig. But the long keel does give me the stability and it does give me the lateral stability and reduced leeway. Here's a classic fin keel boat. You can see she looks quite different. The hull is much flatter, much shallower, and the keel is bolted on onto the structure down here. So they are completely separate units. Much flatter in shape means lesser wetted surface area. This boat is going to be much, much quicker than your long keel boat. Maneuverability is the big one here. You can see we've got this fin keel in the middle with nothing much either side. This boat's going to be super maneuverable, really good for working around marinas. Okay, thinking about leeway, we've got much less under the boat now than the long keel. It's pretty flat. We've got the fin keel here. So this means she's going to make quite a lot of leeway compared to a long keel boat. One of the problems with these, or not necessarily a problem, but something to consider, these keels are bolted onto the hull shape and they have got a lot of stainless steel bolts bolting this through onto the hull. And this is a point of weakness, and there have been plenty of cases in recent years of keels literally falling off. And so one thing about these fin keel boats, you do need to be really careful. They're boats that you do not want to put aground. You don't really want to sit them on the keel alongside the quay. And certainly if you do hit something, then really you should have the boat lifted out and have these keel bolts checked. One other tendency of fin keel boats is because they're all pivoting on a central point, then it makes them a bit skittish. You remember a long keel boat had that lateral stability. A boat like this, if you let go of the wheel, she's going to change course pretty quickly. And very often when you get strong gusts of winds, these boats will pull up into the wind and you can't really stop them doing it. So this is a bit of a compromise. We've looked at long keels, we've looked at fin keels. This is something I would call a long fin. You can see that it is kind of a fin keel, it's central to the boat. We've got cutaway at the front, cutaway at the back, but you can see the length of this keel now, much bigger than the other fin keeler. And this means this boat's got some lateral stability. She's a bit of a compromise. She'll be much more manoeuvrable than a long keel boat. But she's got enough keel that when she's sailing along, she'll try and have a tendency to sail in a straight line with not too much twitching from side to side. Okay, here's a nice example of a winged keel. If you remember, our original fin keel boat was very deep with a bulb at the bottom. The idea of the fin keel is that it is reduced in draft and the weight is spread out over a bigger footprint, so it's spread out here. It means the boat can be much smaller draft, so she can go into shallow water, but you've still got the weight there for stability. One slight advantage of this is because of the reduced draft here, you may have to have a smaller rudder, which might reduce the effectiveness of your manoeuvrability. So this is our classic bilge keeler. You can see rather than having a central keel, she's now got two keels either side of the hull here. The clear advantage of this boat and the way it's designed is it can take the ground. So this is a boat that's great for like creek crawling. You can dry her out in the mud or the sandy beach and she'll stay upright. So that's a big, big advantage. Disadvantage, performance is not so good. Windward performance is not so good. She'll make quite a lot of leeway. But overall, if you want a little boat to cruise locally, dry out from time to time, this is a perfect boat. So compared to the bilge keeler we just looked at, this is a triple keeler. You can see the subtle difference. She's actually a long keel boat in essence with two bilge keels either side. The long keel means she'll sail better upwind, better performance. The bilge keels means that she'll take the ground. Big and heavy, she's going to be slow, but she's going to be comfortable. Okay, this is a great example of a lifting keel vessel. You can see she's a long keel vessel. The keel runs right along here. But if you look closely, can you see at the bottom here is a keel that can be lowered? Because the advantage of this means with a keel in the up position, she can get into very relatively shallow water. She's quite a big boat and probably doesn't draw more than maybe 1.5 meters. But when she's out at sea, she can drop this keel down and that gives her far greater manoeuvrability and far greater performance. When it comes to lifting keels, there are two flavours. One is a true lifting keel, which will be a ballasted keel. This is something that's dropped down once you're out at sea and adds weight and stability to the vessel. This is, in essence, is a lee board or a dagger board, so the boat is actually ballasted within the hull, and when they drop the little keel down, that will increase manoeuvrability and decrease the leeway the vessel might make if the keel was up. Here's another good example of a lifting keel boat. This time this is a proper keel. You'll see there's a big, heavy winged keel at the bottom. At the moment it's retracted, which means this boat draws probably even less than 1 metre. But once she's out at sea, this whole keel, very, very heavy, can be dropped down hydraulically, and then the boat has got the stability and the manoeuvrability we'd expect. So keels, in summary, everybody's got their own ideas about the sort of boat they want, what sort of keel configuration. For me, if I'm thinking about long offshore passages, I want a long keel boat. So I think it's heavy displacement, big long keel, lateral stability so she handles nicely, comfortable motion. If I'm coastal sailing in and out of marinas, I want something that's got a bit more manoeuvrability, so I'm going to go for a fin keeler there. I can whiz myself backwards and forwards in and out marinas easily, and I've got a better turn of speed so I can get places much quicker. And if I'm creek crawling, I want to explore local area, I want to go up those little muddy creeks and get away from people, then a bilge keeler or a triple keeler or even a lifting keel is perfect for that, so I can get away from where all the other boats and drive myself into some little bay somewhere. Okay, that's keels for you. The other things that affect the manoeuvrability of our boat, of course, is the rudders and the propellers, and they come in different flavours as well. So if you want to learn more about those, watch a couple of my other videos. Charlie, when the house bears about 270 degrees.
To work out our distance from the lighthouse and use that.
We might be perfectly on track, but if we're not on time...
Have a look, I've got my phone here at the effects it has on our steering compass. So our echo sound is working, we can find a contour and follow it nicely into port.
Our left hand is pointing towards the centre of the low.